Hi, everybody. I'm your resident short man and magician. And I have, say what had it? Short king, yes. Um, so, the great Lafayette. To his close friends, I got thrown off with the short king thing. Okay, none of that happened. Just fresh. To his closest friends, he was known as Laugh, Laffy, or GL. But to the rest of the world, he was known as the Great Lafayette. The Great Lafayette, a dapper little man wearing slutty small glasses. Hey. The finest of tailoring and two distinct diamond rings on one hand. At the time of his death, he was the highest paid magician in all of Europe, one of the highest paid entertainers in all of Europe. He was not only famous for stunning grand illusions, but also, a word I think I heard earlier on tonight, a renowned travesty act. This is where one dons costumes and does impersonations and characters. He would impersonate famous composers like John Philip Sousa, Strauss, Offenbach, and his most successful travesty impersonation was that of, and I'm so sorry, a Chinese man. Trigger warning, magic history is kind of racist. You see, he impersonated a very popular magician of the time, the very real and the very amazing from China, Qing Ling Fu. Now, Qing Ling Fu was so popular in the US and Europe that white magicians essentially stole his act and did it as a kind of authentic impersonation. To be fair, magicians steal each other's acts all the time. However, one of his contemporaries, one of Lafayette's contemporaries, was a magician named William Robinson, who pretended to be Chinese on stage and off, like in the world, fooling reporters and the general public into thinking he was really Chinese. Magicians do stupid shit for a magic show. Now, but this story is not about Qing Ling Fu nor Robinson. This talk is about, because that talk has already been given on our stage by the amazing Rebecca Power, who I don't think she's here tonight. But this talk is about the Great Lafayette. Born Sigmund Ignatius Neuberger in Munich, Germany, 1871. By age 20, he leaves Europe for the US and gets odd jobs and little gigs in theater. By about age 22, he's got a dime store magic act in New Haven, Connecticut. But he's got bigger dreams than that. So he creates this trick shot bow and arrow act because he thinks that's really going to do it for him. It's going to make his career. It didn't. It was a flop. It was impressive, but it lacked showmanship. It lacked pizzazz. He keeps trying, though. He goes back across the Atlantic to London, weasels his way into the offices of the great theater impresario Edward Moss, and tries to pitch him on the act. Sadly, Moss already saw the act weeks prior in the States. He's like, yeah, kid, lack showmanship, lack pizzazz. Undeterred, goes back across the ocean to the US, and for the next few years starts adding spectacle, music, travesty, magic. He does the Qing Ling Fu act. He does other things like making animals appear, making bowls of fire appear, making children appear. He would demonstrate his quick change abilities, his costume quick change abilities, and he would flabbergast audiences with his ability to vanish from this part of the stage and appear on this part of the stage in the blink of an eye. Now, it's 1899, Nashville. He's at the Opera House, sharing the bill with one Harry Houdini. You may have heard of him. Look at the smolder, look at the smolder. Now, they're both young and still struggling at this point. And tragedy befell Lafayette's life because his dog died. And he was beside himself, of course. And so to console him, Houdini goes to a nearby pound and comes back with a brand new doggo friend for his friend GL. Lafayette immediately falls in love and names her Beauty. Right? Lafayette will also call her his lucky charm, because soon after this, friggin' Edward Moss calls. You see, Moss was trying to hire Qing Ling Fu to headline a bunch of shows in London, but he was not available. So he contacts Robinson, who he still thinks is Chinese, by the way. And he's not available. So he wants something like that, and so he calls up that kid he turned away years ago. The great Lafayette finds himself headlining 3 weeks of sold-out shows at London's Hippodrome Theatre, performing for thousands of people each day. At this point, his career takes off. His shows get bigger, his fees get bigger, his lifestyle gets bigger. And Beauty is by his side, on stage and off, the entire time. She's not just a kind of a character in the show, but she is staying with him in luxury hotels. That's her in the back there. She ate gourmet food off of gold plates, served by white-gloved waiters. She wore a silver engraved collar with the names of every hotel she's ever been at. She had her own bed, and I mean her own bed, and her own toilet, and her own porcelain tub. And when I say the shows got bigger, baby, they got bigger. I mean cast, crew, a band, they all traveled with him. One of his most famous numbers in his show was The Lion's Bride. Warning, a lot of Middle Eastern, East Indian pastiches coming your way right about now. All right, The Lion's Bride was a small playlet, but as you can see, an extravagant playlet, full of lights and sets and costumes and everything, where the young Christian maiden finds herself captured by the evil Pasha, who's going to force her to marry him, but she refuses because she's a good Christian maiden. So, to punish her, he's going to throw her into that lion's cage with the very real lion that he has on tour, by the way. Enter the great Lafayette as the young maiden's lover, Hasim, in the turban with the horse. Turban, because you get pastiche. And by the way, lion and a horse on tour. He does like a magical quick change into a duplicate of the maiden's costume, switches places with the maiden. The maiden runs off escaping and takes her place on stage. Pasha does not know this yet. So Pasha, thinking Lafayette is the maiden, takes Lafayette, throws him into the lion's cage, and closes the door. The lion pounces, snarls, scratches, tears away at Lafayette, and then bloop. In the blink of an eye, Lafayette is gone. The confused lion rears back on its hind legs, roars, and then its head pops off. And there is Lafayette in a lion costume. Any sign of another person or the lion are gone. Pasha is defeated, the maiden returns, and Hasim and the maiden live happily ever after. You see, a really progressive storyline. The Lion's Bride was so amazing, it fooled both general audiences and magicians alike. It was incredible. Now, time passes. Scotland, May 1911. It's been over a decade since his first shows at the Hippodrome. He's had an amazing life, an amazing career. And Beauty has been by his side the whole time. But it's been 10 years, and she is older and sicker and is not doing well. Lafayette says, if she dies, I'll die a few days later. She was my lucky charm. My luck has run out. And Beauty died on May 4. No cemetery would allow Lafayette to bury Beauty on their consecrated land. He convinces one cemetery out in Glasgow to do it, and they agree, as long as he agrees, to be buried with her one day. He agrees, and they set Beauty's funeral for May 10. May 9, the Empire Palace Theatre in Edinburgh, Scotland. Lafayette, grieving, pushing through the show, is finishing up The Lion's Bride, which he only does once in a while now. This is a special occasion. He's just gotten into the maiden's costume. He's about to appear on stage, and that's when an ornate lantern of 7 light bulbs that hung over the set sparked and burst into flames. The cable broke. It plummeted to the stage, lighting other things on fire along the way. It crashes. Now the drapes are on fire, the pillows, the props, the textiles. The fire travels across the stage, back up the backdrop. The cast is surrounded. The fire curtain does get eventually released, but the cast and crew bust through the one backstage door they can access because all the other ones were locked because of the lion. This causes a gust of air to blow into the stage, causing the other curtains to flare up in a weird way, jamming into the works of the fire curtain, stopping the fire curtain just feet above the stage. The fire continued to roar, and a few minutes later, the fire burned through the works of the whole fire curtain, bringing the entire thing down onto the stage, crashing through the floor of the stage into the basement below. Lafayette was seen outside in the back getting cast and crew out and then realizing, oh, the lion, the horse, and he runs back in to save them. A few minutes later, all 3,000 members of the audience got out safely, but 8 of his cast and crew perished. And Lafayette's body was found on stage, in costume, charred. He was immediately sent to be cremated. Now, as the authorities were trying to account for everybody, going over the cast and crew list and trying to make sure they had everybody found, there was one guy missing, a C.E. Richards trumpet player. They eventually found him. He was in the basement, underneath the rubble of the fire curtain, his hands still frozen in place, trying to protect himself. And that's when they noticed something. C.E. Richards' trumpet player had 2 distinct diamond rings on one hand. These are Lafayette's diamond rings. Lafayette doesn't take these things off, not even during a costume change. Why would the trumpet player have it? And that's when the world discovered a secret. That the man listed as C.E. Richards' trumpet player in the program was just another mask. C.E. Richards' trumpet player was actually J.W. Bell, Lafayette's magic body double. And this man they found in the basement was actually Lafayette. The man they just sent to be cremated was J.W. Bell. May 14, an estimated 200,000 people lined the procession route for Lafayette's funeral. Houdini couldn't make it in time, so he sent flowers in the shape of a dog. And a note that read, "I envied him. He fooled him in life and in death." And the great Lafayette's ashes were placed between the paws of his beloved beauty. And the glass lid sealed airtight, preserving Lafayette and beauty together for all eternity. So, my friends, let us raise a glass to quirky people who own pets and the wonderful things they create for all of us to enjoy. Salud.